Hey everybody, welcome back to the BrainScratch Musashi commentary. Let me see. Let me check my notes here. What did we do last part? I don't know. I forgot.
We saved the steam plant again.
We saved Steamwood. That's right. We did the Steamwood thing again. All right, so we can get back to the main story here. We got, we liberated the fire scroll. But we got to find the fire crest, and thankfully I know exactly where it's at. So this is not going to take very long at all. And you can't do this out of order either, because if you decide to ignore the Steamwood side quest, well, not the side quest, but the mini game itself, there's a pipe here that will emit steam, preventing you from accessing this part of the scroll.
Does the timer only start once you go to the building?
Yeah, once you go inside the building, yes. But once you ride the gondola and Musashi notices the steam in the air, you cannot get the fire scroll. But the game pretty much locks you into doing this sort of thing anyway, so it's not like you can do it out of order anyway.
Nah, it's always a little annoying when games do that, but I understand why.
Well, I should say without speedrunning. Because speedrunning this game is kind of like speedrunning Paper Mario, where you're skipping chapters but then doing certain events that put you back in previous chapters for a moment. And then you go back to the future chapters again. It's really weird. Like, maybe at some point in my life I like to try it out just for shits and giggles. But it's also like I'd probably screw it up.
I also kind of just have maybe I'm in the minority here, but I kind of feel like breaking the game to that extent defeats the point of playing in the first place.
I feel if you've played the game to death as originally designed, do what you want.
Oh yeah. At the same time, though,
I have the power.
I'm so happy that it took us until the fourth scroll to finally make that fucking He-Man reference.
Dude, I made it on the very first one. What are you talking
Did
about?
you?
We did. Yeah, we did.
No, you did Branson.
can I just
Oh, true.
confess something?
Yeah.
Okay, I am completely and utterly baffled by YouTube's obsession with He-Man, a cartoon none of y'all liked when it was actually running.
I wasn't born when it came out.
Neither was I.
I just like the hey, yeah meme. All right. But yeah,
Yeah,
He-Man was not actually a good cartoon, nor was Transformers
all
or
you
G.I.
people.
Joe.
Basically, almost none of those 80s cartoons were actually good. Y'all are just nostalgia applying to it.
Yeah, and like all you people suddenly pretending you cared about She-Ra 2 years ago. Shut up. You didn't. You don't know the first thing about She-Ra.
So we got a She-Ra gatekeeper here.
Well, no, he's talking about the people who are like, She-Ra should have big boobies, and it's just like, She-Ra was the show you made fun of your little sister for watching, and now suddenly you're incredibly dedicated to the She-Ra lore. Like, please come on, let her watch the Netflix show.
Or people who they're oh, I'm such a big superhero fan, and all you do is watch big movies that come out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It's like-
okay,
it's
to
like-
be
it's
for
like
that
you're- it's like
one,
you're kind-
to be fair,
like-
comics are like obnoxiously
Yeah, but-
expensive.
Yeah, but I mean, talking about like other media, like cartoons or other TV shows, like no, they just kind of go see big budget movies. It's like, are you really?
Yeah, but to play devil's advocate on that point, it's a little hard to get into the actual comics because, like, where do you start? Not on the current issue, because you're going to be jumping in the middle of something you don't understand, without fail.
Yeah, you kind of have to wait until like the current universe ends and then get the trade of that.
So next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, these days, yeah, because that's what comics have been trying to do. They've been trying to have, oh, this is a good place to jump on, and it's just like, no, don't.
It's
bother
like
doing
I
that.
love New 52 Batman, but fuck if I was following it when it was current, because I refuse to buy all those floppies, and I'll just wait for the trade.
They're still too expensive, even when you get the trade. It's like $20 for a.
By the way, say goodbye to
60-page
Bubbles
book.
and Ginger Ale. That's the last time
Well,
I see them in the game.
oh yeah, that's right. She's gone. Okay.
Both of them are. We never see those two again.
So it's like, okay, you thought you were going to trap me in a cage that powers my sword. Thanks.
Yeah, luckily we have the power of Lumina by our side. We can break through our own jails. And we also absorbed that Bincho tight, so our BP went up by 50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for handing me a power-up. Idiots. I will argue the point about comic book trades being too expensive, because there is a value there. It's just not a value of page count. It's more like it's a more expensive production, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes sometimes the trade is a combination of different book series.
Well, what they really need to be doing is they just need to abandon the concept of floppies to begin with.
I agree there.
I also get why trades are so expensive, because they're full color. Western comics are basically all full color, or
And
at
they
least
print on higher quality
superhero
paper.
ones. Yeah, they
Yes.
need the higher quality paper, because if they weren't, then the ink would make it the flimsiest crap ever invented.
Yeah.
So like I get it, but at the same time, like I've gotten into reading manga more over the past like 6 months, and you get twice the book for half the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that's why I'm saying they just need to just abandon floppies altogether and just make it so this month has Superman, Batman, Captain America, and Spider-Man trades. Next month has these bunch of characters trades.
that would be the way I would like
To
it,
me,
yes.
it's like if standard book readers can wait a couple of years between like a Harry Potter Volume 3 and 4, comic book fans can wait a few years for like the next big trade book.
Yeah, they can get like a big trade book like twice a year or something.
Twice a
That's
year,
fine.
well, yeah, or not even twice a year, like maybe once every year, depending on the series.
Well, I mean, some YA books come out like every 8 months. so-
Generally speaking, a comic book trade of standard length is probably about 6 issues, so it would be twice a year, wouldn't it?
About that, yeah.
Yeah.
It also give them more creativity to just tell a story within the trade instead of trying to do the
obviously
whole,
leaving cliffhangers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like what did Superman discover in the hall? Find out next issue.
Yeah, this is a bit lengthy for the standard issue trade, because it actually covered a whole year's worth of issues plus a mini-series before that. But Power Girl Power Trip was actually a really satisfying read just as a single entity, because the story arc that unfolded throughout that year was a really coherent thing, and it actually
Well, it's also
worked really well as one big long comic, you know?
Well, it's also one thing to know is that knowing how like all those the ones that all the stuff that people really like about comics, for a lot of these characters are either out of universe stuff or just kind of their own separate one-shot things.
Mm.
At least as far as like the widespread, more culturally relevant ones. Like people, like comic fans will say, "Oh man, Mark Waid's run on what was it, Hawkeye?"
Mark Waid's run on Daredevil and Matt
Daredevil,
Fraction's
yeah,
run
sorry.
on Hawkeye
Yeah, it's
are
like
like
they'll
my
say, like-
favorite Marvel books.
They'll say like, "Oh man, this guy's run on this book was really good." It's like, but most people don't note or care about that.
The Hawkeye, well, you see, people got really excited that they used the Matt Fraction logo for the Hawkeye Disney miniseries, and it's just like, one, we're really easy to please, goddamn, and two, it's just like,
I'm more talking about it's like as far as the comics themselves go, most people are going to be reading something like All-Star Superman or
right.
like this own separate thing. rather
Elseworlds
than-
Tales,
yeah.
yes.
So they should probably stick to something closer to that as far as telling their stories go.
I mean, it is a bit. They do seem to be sticking to the monthly issue formula, simply because that's the way it's been done for a long time. But the other issue with that is, it's easier to get someone to make a ton of little small investments into a comic series for a character that's not super popular than it is to get them to buy a big old 6-issue.
I would
I
disagree.
I disagree because I'm not. No one's going to spend $4 for a single issue of a character and then have to take the effort to keep up with a character month to month.
Not to
I
mention
think
that
they'd rather
At the
just
same
spend-
time, though, you feel like you're not losing much if you buy that floppy, don't like it, and decide not to follow up.
Well,
You're spending
I-
$5 as opposed to $20.
I would disagree, and here's why. You get done with a full comic issue, like a floppy monthly issue, in like what, 10 minutes at most. Whereas like a trade, you know, it's like reading it's like a full experience, you know. And honestly, in terms of trying to buy a comic, like I would think that more people would be more likely to buy a trade for $20 than one floppy for $5 just because it feels more like a real book. And I know that comics are real books, you know.
At the same time, though, I feel folks, to compare it to video games, are willing to download a demo before they try the full product.
Yeah, but
Demos
that's
aren't
because you
free,
don't have
though.
to pay for the demo.
Either way, like if there was a cheaper option to consider, I feel folks would want to do that
As
before they
an
invest
entry
in it,
point, yeah,
sort of
that's
thing.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you know, it's
Then
easier.
There's a better way.
Yeah,
to do
it's
that.
easier to justify that these days digitally, though, is the thing. Like Comixology, you can just grab an issue, see if you like it, and there's probably like Comixology Unlimited, some free subscription that you can just try out. Which, you know, I think
I mean, that's another thing they should do is like if you really must keep the everything has an issue and released monthly because that's just how you do it, then you need to just move to an online subscription.
yeah, like
service.
DC Universe
have,
is
like-
kind of doing that, isn't it?
The problem is it's not current stuff. It's always
Yeah.
they always
true.
buck upload stuff like every year or something. It's like no, you need to have like your comics app that's like I don't know, $15-$20 a year, and you can just read all of Marvel as it comes out every week or DC every week or something. Yeah, it's like I would too because you know I'm getting a fair price and I don't need physical floppies. Even though, yeah, I'm the big physical guy, and even I'm like, floppies don't really have a purpose to hang on to them anymore.
Well, I mean, they don't last as. They're
Yeah.
also not fun to display too. Is
Well,
the other
they-
big thing.
They'd probably have to set that subscription service at a fairly high price point to justify the number of series that it
No,
would
because
take
because you would get a lot more people, you know, actually reading it now.
Yeah,
In
but
theory.
to justify the number of series that it would take to make that appealing to a lot of people, they'd have to set it at a high enough price point to support all those series at once, is the thing.
Well, Ryan said $20 a year. I would think it would probably be more like maybe like
30, maybe 40.
yeah, because I don't think that they
that
could
may
get
be-
away with like $8 a month like Netflix.
I think
but-
they need to get cheaper so people will actually buy it because
Well,
you
yeah.
have it cheaper because people. I know a lot of people who would do that, but it's like you need to get people into it. If you get more people buying it at 20, that's making up for all the people who are not buying it as physical for $4 a piece.
Yeah.
You also save production cost if you.
At the same
use
time,
mostly
though,
digital.
the production of each series is pretty expensive. So
Well, I mean, you're not printing it either, so that's
yeah, I mean, if
already
they
a big
could,
cost.
if they could achieve the same kind of numbers with their subscriptions that like Netflix has, then maybe they could pull that off.
I'd imagine they'd do even better because people can actually, you know, read it and not have to go to a comic shop. Or
Well,
buy it
but
online.
also because the comics, while expensive to produce, aren't nearly as expensive as like a Netflix original series or something. Netflix is kind of not in the best financial place.
Oh, they're riddled with debt, and most of their crap is not getting people's attention because it's not very good.
Which is surprising considering that Netflix is one of the most influential platforms right now.
Well, it
Like,
was
it's-
influential because it had everything on it. It was super convenient for everything.
Yeah, but it's just like it's surprising that they're doing so poorly when it's such a ubiquitous service.
Well, the problem is they've hit their max. No one's buying more Netflix subscriptions. Everyone who wants a Netflix subscription has already bought one. They're not getting more users. So they have
Are
nowhere
you
to go but
saying
down.
that our society, our capitalist society, on growth over anything else is non-sustainable?
Yes.
That sounds fake and bad.
Well, at some point, even if you make the greatest thing in the world, eventually you run out of people to sell it to.
Yep.
I don't understand. Your company should always be growing, 100% of the time.
But yeah, you know, I'd like to see comics move to a more digital medium, but of course, there's also the same discussion to be had about that regarding comic ownership versus digital distribution. I know, like,
I'm saying you can still make trades because people still like the physical versions, but at this point, floppies don't have much of a purpose.
yeah, I know. I'm not disputing that, but there are still a substantial number of people who are going to argue that point.
Small disclaimer. Talk about the game for a second. You want to absorb the blue ants, not the red ants.
Oh
Blue
dear.
ants gives you acid. Acid's a really good power because it's really powerful in ants. It one-shots ants. Don't absorb red ants because it gives you depression.
Is
What?
that actually what it gives you? Or
Yes, it gives you an ability called Depress. And the description...
buck it up, Musashi. I get through the day on depression all the time.
The description is feel temporary blue. Now, I believe the intention of the ability is so that the red ants won't attack you. Well, they won't be able to do contact damage anyway, because I guess they're also depressed and they feel.
I would
don't
have
know.
preferred it if they said you're blue, dabba dee, dabba die.
Da-ba-da. Yeah,
this
which
came
I
out
think
before that song.
Why do you get the
I believe so, yeah.
Why do you get the ability that makes you blue from the red ants and the ability that doesn't from the blue ants?
Shut up, Lewis. You sound like you have depression. This is actually my favorite soldier in the game, Rumperoni. He gives you the best attack in the game. Rumperoni SP. You do a double jump, you hit triangle, and you attack in a cross motion using both fusion and lumina. It's really cool.
Nice.
I like that. Yeah, let's talk about the story because we went on that train tangent for like 15 minutes. Why are we here? What are we doing here? So after fixing Steamwood, the gondola household was starting to get ransacked by a giant ant, as things happen in RPGs. We get the idea to use the gondola to ram into that son of a bitch, and it causes it to escape into its hideout, where the Queen Ant resides, who is, spoiler warning, the Crest Guardian for the Wind Scroll. So it's a good thing that we
Convenient.
did. Yeah, it's a good thing we did run into that giant ant because it leads us directly to our next destination. And basically, the giant ant household is basically a harder version of the mines. There's multiple ways to get poisoned. There's a lot of platforming challenges, and the game, the area caps off with this mining minigame where, much like the raft sequence in Twin Peak Mountain, you can only afford to get hit 3 times. Get hit 4th time, instant game over. At the very least, if you die here, you restart here. The game gives you a checkpoint here.
I like how, because of the way the graphics work, you're obviously supposed to be sliding along a wire here, but the wire is moving with you, or rather, the background is moving and you are stationary.
The tunnel is moving around this.
Yes.
That's how Star Trek achieves faster than light travel. You're not moving the ship. You're moving the universe around the ship.
Wait, is that actually how it works in the Star Trek universe?
More or less, yeah.
So what if two
What?
people are trying to go in light speed in 2 opposite directions?
Relativity
God help us
kicks
all.
in.
The theory of relativity. That's not how it works, though. I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. Star
You
Trek
know
is
us at BrainScratch Comms are expert astrophysicists. You
Star
know.
Trek is strange when it
Well,
comes.
at the very least, pretend to act like one.
Star Trek is strange when it comes to science fiction, and I mean retro Star Trek is strange when it comes to science fiction. There were a lot of interesting concepts at the time, and it did have the function of getting people's imaginations going as far as what can be done in the real world.
Oh, it's the biggest proponent of self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, but like the actual material in Star Trek itself is bonkers and would
Oh,
never
no,
work.
You took a hunk of crystal and a metal piece of lead. You made a laser phaser gun and shot him in the head.
I love that, like, according to the 1960s, like, one of the things that was incredibly, like, unreasonable to think of was, like, the communicator from Star Trek, where, like, we have walkie-talkies. We've had walkie-talkies since, like, the 80s. And, yeah, it's just...
Or
it's
in
nuts.
like the next generation where Picard effectively just has a tablet.
Yeah, it's like, you telling me we have Star Trek? Oh, yeah, one of my favorite things as well is the idea that, okay, I go back in time and I tell them I have this device that allows me to contact anyone in the world and also allows me to achieve any piece of information I want at any time. And what I use it for is arguing with strangers and looking up pictures of cats.
Yeah, you know.
Well, like I said, Star Trek is like one of the biggest pillars of self-fulfilling prophecy because they're like, Star Trek predicted this piece of technology. It's like, no, the people who made the technology were inspired by Star Trek to make it in the first place.
Yeah,
Because
they kind
they're-
of were.
Yeah, so it's like, oh man, Picard has this cool tablet thing they can watch videos and talk to people on. I want to make that, so they do. Star Trek predicted this future technology. It's like, no, they really didn't.
It's kind of like how smartwatches probably are only like 20% around because of like practical use and like 80% around because James Bond had one. You know, you don't have one that has a
You know,
laser
it's
beam
funny
yet,
because
but-
I might be a little weird in this one, but I think of like phone watches like that. I don't think of James Bond. I think of Penny from Inspector Gadget.
well, that's because you're a nerd, okay, John?
Like she made that shit cool for me. Who the hell is James Bond?